Hello everyone, it's Jennifer and thanks for coming by. In this video I wanted to show you a fun way to add some dimension to an otherwise pretty simple card just by using paper. So I had some stamp sets from My Favorite Things that are new that I love these greetings and I wanted them to stand out, but I wanted it to have a little dimension too. So I combined some inks and some paper to create this dimensional look. Now at the end of the video I'm going to show you another way you can do this but end up with a very similar look, and that's with this card here. But I'm going to stick with the first card for most of the video. This technique is a great one if you have a stamped image that you really just want to shine, but you want to add a little something to it, a little bit of dimension. So I'm using this new stamp set from My Favorite Things. It has all these celebrate greetings on it, and I wanted to keep the focus on these greetings. So I'm just kind of planning out where I'm going to put the greetings. Now I want a diagonal line to put these greetings. I think the diagonal line is a great way to just add a little bit of interest to an otherwise simple card. So I'm kind of planning here that I want the diagonal line to be about here. So I put it in my trimmer and cut it, and this is going to be my guide. So I'm just keeping this piece of paper as a guide for all the stamping that I'm going to do. Now I wanted to be able to see that edge there, my guide, so I'm just running a marker along it so I can see it when I put it on top of another piece of paper. So I've put it on some white cardstock. This is going to actually be part of my card. I'm going to ink it up with some Jelly Bean Green My Favorite Things ink. This is a great green ink. And I'm going to stamp this right above that guideline. Now you could do this with a stamp positioner, which I'll show you later on. But I find if you just stamp close to that line every time, you'll be just fine with this technique. So now that I've stamped this, I'm going to clean off my stamp. And by the way, the My Favorite Things ink cleans off very nicely from clear stamps and doesn't stain it. This time I'm using electric red. It's a great true red color. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to stamp just above that line. So you can see why I darkened the edge of that paper, because I want to be able to see it when I go to stamp. I'm going to stamp this right above that line. And there I've got it positioned just about the same place as I did on the green paper. Then I'm going to do this a third time using the blue raspberry color. So now I've stamped the exact same image in the exact same place 3 times with 3 different colors of ink. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this together with the fun layering, and this is really easy to do. Now first I need to go and cut these pieces up. So I'm just going to cut the blue and the green right down the center. So I'm just cutting right down the center of the word. There I've cut it right in half. And then I'll do the same with the green. And actually I can save my extra pieces to make another card if I wanted to. So I'm going to cut the green right down the center. Now these are going to match up, but I want the red to have just like a slice out of the center of the word. So I'm just going to cut a random slice right out of the center here. So I'm going up a little bit above center and a little bit below center. So I have about a little over a 1/4 inch chunk out of the center of my greeting. Now you could really measure this if you wanted to, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it. With this trimmer it's easy to just eyeball it. So now I'm going to start to piece this together on another piece of white cardstock. So this white cardstock here is just a holding place so I can glue all my other pieces onto it. So I'm going to put my green stamped piece on the bottom. Then I'm going to take the blue stamped piece and put it on the top. Now you can see my leftover green and leftover blue I can save for another card. Now you see they don't match up perfectly because I didn't center it right on the paper, but I'm going to trim that down in a minute. And there we have the red strip to add on top. Looks so cool. I love the look of this. Now first I need to square this off so that the edges are nice. So I'm going to go back in with my trimmer and just trim the edges off. Now I could get perfect placement and end up with it centered on all directions if I used a stamp positioner, which I'll show you later. But you know, sometimes eyeballing it's just as easy. And then I have my favorite Fiskars Amplify scissors that are long, wide scissors to trim off that extra bit on the top. So now it's time to add the dimension with some paper. So that little red strip that we cut out of the center of the greeting, I'm going to add some dimension to that with lots of red paper so it'll peek through. So this strip is a little more than 1/4 inch. So I'm going to cut a bunch of red cardstock strips. This is the electric red cardstock from My Favorite Things. It's one of my favorite red cardstocks because it's a very true red. I'm going to cut a bunch of little strips that are the same width as the Celebrate piece that we cut out of the center. And what I'm going to do is glue these all on top of each other so that I get a lot of thickness behind that strip. So I'm just going to start gluing these together. I ended up doing about 5 pieces glued together. You can go as thick as you want to. This My Favorite Things cardstock is nice and thick, so you really don't need that many pieces before you have a great thickness built up. I'm just gluing these together with my Tombow stamp runner, but you could use any adhesive for this. So now that I have a bunch of layers put together, I'm going to go ahead and put my stamp piece right on top of it. You'll see I'm not taking any time to line up the edges because I'll cut all the extra off. So this thickness is just about right for me, and I'm going to glue this right on top, and it's fun because when you look from the sides you see red behind it. Just that pop of red is really fun. So now I'm going to add this across the card and line it right up. Now you'll notice part of this is hanging off the side. I could have trimmed this as I added each layer, but I've got these strong scissors that'll just cut right through this, so it's easy just to trim it off at the end. But you could do it as you add each layer along the way. So there we have the center of this greeting kind of popped up. Now I'm going to add this onto a blue raspberry card base. This is from My Favorite Things. One of the reasons I like their cardstock a lot is when you score it and fold it, you don't get like the frayed edges. It scores nicely. So now I'm going to use black ink to stamp the happy birthday message. There's lots of different greetings you can put with the word celebrate in the stamp set. Now I thought this was great, but I needed a little bit of shine to it. I don't know why. I just felt like it needed something to go along with that celebration feel. So of course I've got my Wink of Stella shimmer pen. I'm just going to add some shimmer over the colored stamping here. Just adds a little bit of touch. It's hard to see in a video camera, but you'll see it captured in the photo, and in real life it's just beautiful. I also wanted to add shine to the word happy birthday, so I'm using my powder tool just to brush across the card so I don't have any static. And I'm actually going to clear emboss on top of my black stamping. This is one of the great things about a clear stamp, is I can stamp directly on top of it with Versamark ink, which is just a clear sticky ink, then put on clear embossing powder, and it looks like you've black heat embossed your greeting. This is a great way to get the look of black embossing without the mess. And also I kind of thought about it afterwards, so going back and adding the clear embossing on top worked well for me. So you can see the shine in that photo, and then I added a few black sequins too. Now I wanted to show you another variation of this card. I'm not going to show you all the steps since we just went through it with the other card, but I wanted to show you that if you do have a stamp positioner, it kind of makes this easier sometimes. This isn't how a stamp positioner is intended to be used, but it works great. What I'm doing is positioning my stamp exactly where I want it to be on the card. Then I take the stamp positioner and put it right up against the corner of the paper. Now I'm going to put my block right up against the nook of the stamp positioner and press it onto the stamp. So now I know that stamp is positioned perfectly on the acrylic block. So I'm inking up with Razzleberry ink in Great Hot Pink, putting my stamp and paper up against the corner and stamping down. And there I have it perfectly centered where I want it. Now I'm going to do another piece of paper. This time I'm using, I think it's called Grape Jelly, the purple ink. I'll put my paper into the corner of the stamp positioner, also my acrylic block, and stamp down. And now I know that this purple is positioned exactly where the pink was. Now I didn't ink up my purple stamp really well here. This is another great thing about a clear stamp and a stamp positioner. I can go and do it again, and I know it'll line up perfectly for a second try here, and that'll give me a more solid image. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with 3 other colors, Craft, Blue Raspberry, and Orange Fizz, so that I end up with the 5 different colors that you see here. Now it's time to kind of break up these diagonal lines so I can add some dimension under 2 of the areas. So I have a ruler here with a pencil, and I'm going to lightly draw some diagonal lines, and I'm just trying to space them evenly apart, but I'm not going to take the time to measure it. You can if you wanted to. But I'm going to end up drawing 3 lines here so that I have 5 sections of color. 3 areas between the lines, 1 above the top line and 1 below the bottom line. So we have 5 different areas of color that we can have. So now I'm going to just go ahead and start. This is my guide, by the way. This blue piece that I'm coloring on, I messed that one up, so it's just my guide. That's why I'm coloring on it or using the pencil on it. So now I'm just going to start cutting up different pieces. So you can kind of plan what color you want where so you know which to cut. I'm just going to start chopping, and then I'm going to act like it's a puzzle afterwards and put the pieces together. The great thing about a card like this is you have to stamp 5 pieces, but you end up with lots of leftovers that you can arrange and get additional cards. And I am all about making more than 1 card at a time. So I'm using the guide of that blue one, that extra piece that I had with the pencil lines. I'm using that as a guide as I cut along all of those lines. And I cut up all of these different pieces. So now I'm just going to go ahead and start piecing all of the pieces together onto a card. I find it's easiest to start with a backing piece and glue the top piece on and the bottom piece, so I have the purple and the brown piece on, and then start filling in the extra and kind of plan it out. So now that I have this planned out, I can pick the two areas that I want to add lots of colored cardstock underneath. I added orange under the orange area and blue under the blue stamped area, and just added that behind it as I did earlier in the video. Then I also added some Wink of Stella shimmer to it. I stamped Take Care, which is in that stamp set, and then I just hand drew a black heart onto it. Very simple, and the great thing is I have lots of leftover pieces that I can assemble into similar cards. So there's a fun technique, a great way to add some dimension to your paper. If you're interested in any of these supplies, the links are all below in my YouTube description, or you can go over to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com where I have much more. If you liked any of the techniques and tips you saw in this video, I'd love it if you gave me a thumbs up over on YouTube, and hopefully we'll see you again in a future video. Thanks so much for watching.